Hey guys, it is Monday, and that means it is time for our new segment, the best woke moment of the week. Now, what we're going to be doing in this segment is going over the past week and looking at the most woke news stories that are out there. And what we're going to do is each one's going to be given a number designation, and at the end of the video, whichever moment you thought was the most woke, you will vote for. And then come next week when we do this segment again, we will tell you which one was the winner and give you a whole list of news stories because, as we know, there are tons of these every week. So, without further hesitation, let's dive right in. So, for our first woke moment of the week, number one here, we have a story from HGTV that has gotten some really mixed reactions. So, you've heard of the show House Hunters, you know, where a couple goes around and looks for a house and they show them 3 different ones and then they pick their favorite and they buy it and they move in, they're all happy. Yeah, it's great. Well, there was a difference with this episode. Little difference. And that was that it was a throuple looking for a house, not a couple. Now, if you don't know the difference between a throuple and a couple, it's really easy, really simple. I'll explain to you right now. So with a couple, you have 2 people that love each other and they're together and they're looking for a house, okay? That's the couple. Now, when you have a throuple, it's the same thing, just with 1 extra person. That's all it is. So on this episode, it was a group of 3 people looking for 1 house to move into that were all lovers. I'll read you the story of what happened. So in this episode, it focuses on Brian, Lori, and Gelly. Brian and Lori were already legally married when they met Gelly, and apparently they fell in love with her at a bar. So the couple exchanged vows in a commitment ceremony, which was attended by Brian and Lori's 2 children. The show, titled Three's Not a Crowd in Colorado Springs, aired on Wednesday night, and it followed the trio as they searched for a home with a 3-car garage, a kitchen with enough room for 3 people, and a master bedroom suitable for 3 inhabitants. Now that's something. And HGTV is really breaking some ground by throwing in a throuple into the show. And a lot of people were really upset by this. You know, they don't want that kind of thing represented on TV for the family to see. Other people say it's groundbreaking and innovative. I mean, it's just a little bit weird. On a related note, TLC saw how much attention that having a throuple on House Hunters brought, and they have decided to apply the same formula to one of their own series. So, coming this spring will be a brand new show for all of us to watch called My 600-Pound Throuple. It's getting hot and heavy. So, time for woke story number 2. Recently in the news, we've had lots of issues with transgender people trying to compete in women's sports. Men who've transitioned to women claiming they can compete in women's sports. And some people have gotten very upset about it, claiming there's an unfair advantage. Rightly so. Well, some girls and their families have taken to filing a lawsuit to keep these men out of women's sports. And there's been a lot of controversy around it. And just the other day, there was actually a track meet where one of the girls who helped file the lawsuit worked her freaking butt off and beat one of these guys. So let's go ahead and take a look at the article and see just what happened. A female high school student defeated a transgender athlete in a Connecticut state championship race just 2 days after the lawsuit was filed in an effort to block transgender athletes from participating in girls' sports in the state. Chelsea Mitchell of Canton High School won the Class S 55-meter dash title on Friday night with a time of 7.18 seconds, edging Terry Miller of Bloomfield High School. Miller is a transgender athlete who finished at 7.20 seconds. So she beat him by 0.02 seconds. Jeez. So, the families of Mitchell and the 2 other female high school runners filed the federal lawsuit on Wednesday, arguing that the athletes with male anatomy to compete has deprived them of track titles and scholarship opportunities. So as you can see, there's a lot of issues. The guys that had transitioned were winning left and right, and one of these girls finally beat them, but barely, just got by. And unfortunately, as you can imagine, this guy has gone through this whole process of transitioning and becoming a woman to dominate a sport. He'd be very upset, heartbroken. So, was out of touch for a little while. No one heard from him. But then an unknown source claims he was at home, binge watching The Ringer over and over, and we're not sure if this correlates, but he has recently come out with a statement claiming that we have actually been identifying him wrong to be calling him just a woman. In fact, that is not the only label he now has. He has now come out as a person with Down syndrome and has declared that he will be competing, or should I say she will be competing in the next Special Olympics. Is there any correlation to the movie she's been watching recently? We're not sure, but if we find out, we will let you know. So on to woke moment number 3, which comes to us from good old Mike Bloomberg. Now, this woke moment isn't necessarily new and just happened, but footage of it has recently resurfaced due to the election year and everything, and it's making big news right now, so we're going to talk about it. Basically, Mike Bloomberg calls farmers stupid and dumb, and that they're not as smart as people in other professions. I'll go ahead and show you what he said. So, in a clip from his November 2016 talk at the Said Business School of the University of Oxford in England, Bloomberg said, quote, "I could teach anybody, even people in this room, to be a farmer. It's a process. You dig a hole, you put a seed in, you put dirt on top, add water, up comes the corn." And then he says, "Now comes the information economy, and the information economy is fundamentally different because it's built around replacing people with technology," Bloomberg added. "And the skill sets that you have to learn are how to think and analyze. This is a whole degree level different. You have to have a different skill set. You have to have a lot more gray matter." Oh my goodness. You basically just called people who farm dumber than people who are in other careers, which is not true at all. That is not scientifically accurate. But luckily, Michael Bloomberg is also here to teach us many other important facts. In another recent article that resurfaced, Michael Bloomberg also claims to know where in fact babies come from and can tell us all just how that happens. He goes on to explain that a mommy and a daddy love each other very much, and when they kiss, a stork brings a baby in a little wrap and sets it on their front doorstep, and the mommy and daddy then love it very much. Michael Bloomberg is a man who knows his stuff. For woke moment number 4, we have Bree Kidman, who is running for the office of Senate in Maine. Now, Bree Kidman describes herself as a non-binary, queer, feminist, lawyer, mermaid, writer, activist, and artist. A lot of good qualities there, right? Sure. So, the big thing that recently hit the news with her was her campaign. And she chose a very interesting logo and theme to promote her campaign. Maybe a little unorthodox. It's a little controversial. You can go ahead and look at it here. It's pretty bad. So here's the tweet from her. She says, "I was going to wait until tomorrow to show off these beauties, but Trump got acquitted, and I feel like folks could use something to look forward to, so get ready for merch you can't buy. You shouldn't buy elections, so you can't buy our locally silk-screened upcycled merch." Now, if you look closely here, you might say, wait a second. Is that a guillotine? That's not a guillotine. But I want to let you know, yes, that's a guillotine. The thing they use to chop people's heads off. Now, she says that this right here is just symbolism. And, she's not really wanting to cut people's heads off. Guess we take her word for it. I don't know. But it turns out, coming to that design took a great deal of deliberation. Like, they were working on this design for a long time. And you see, the issue was they originally were going to go with a gas chamber, but it's just really hard to get people to tell what it is in a simple logo. It'd get too complex and people wouldn't really understand what they're looking at, maybe from it being on the campaign logo. And then she thought about, maybe I'll go with a swastika. But, that's overused, and she's like, white supremacists use that, I can't use that too, even though it supports some of my beliefs. So then she thought a little bit longer, it was like, the guillotine, cutting people's heads off in France and whatnot, that's a good idea. So while it wasn't her first choice, she's very happy about it now and thinks she's really settled on a good logo. I mean, you tell me. Is that a great looking guillotine or what? Number 5 on our list of most woke moments of the week comes from a tweet given by Lilo the Autistic Queer. That is the person's name. I am not being mean. They call themselves that on Twitter. So, this person has made a big deal about men's periods. And yes, you heard me right on that as well. Men's periods. You know, menstrual cycles that women have. But he's talking about the ones men supposedly have. Well, anyway, he's outraged that, you know, the company Fitbit, smartwatch, tracks your health. For women, it can help track the menstrual cycles. So, let me just read why he, she, it, us, them is upset. It says, "Hey, Fitbit support, I love the female health tracker in your app. However, I am not a female and I menstruate. Many trans and intersex people are in this position and feel alienated from menstrual health access. Could you please change the name to the neutral term, menstrual health?" Then followed up by a tweet later on that says, "Hey, just so y'all know, a Fitbit employee DM'd me and said that they and several others are working on pushing this change, but it may take some time. Just keeping everyone updated." So, there's so many things. This guy has menstrual cycles and periods and says a bunch of men and trans people do, and there's so many different types of people that apparently have periods, that Fitbit needs to change their term over something that's well established and doesn't need to be argued to changed. And they're throwing a fit about it. All right, time for woke story number 6. Now, some of you may remember back when there was the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, you know, the middle one between Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland that was Well, there was a kind of an issue way back where he wanted Mary Jane to be a man and he wanted Spider-Man to be either gay or bisexual. And that blew up for a few weeks, you know, he was making comments about it, and then he was no longer Spider-Man, kind of forgotten about. Well, there's a new leak claiming that there's going to be some type of Spider-Man multiverse movie coming out where Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland are all going to play different Spider-Men from different universes. And of course, since Andrew Garfield's coming back in, he wants to bring up the whole, hey, let's get a gay Spider-Man in there, or specifically a bisexual Spider-Man in there. In the movie, Holland, the current Spider-Man, meets his alter egos from the Spider-Verse. Now, that's probably kind of like the animated Into the Spider-Verse they had. The character was previously played by Maguire and Andrew Garfield in other movies. The sources say that Sony really wants to get Garfield back in a Spider-Man movie. Not sure why. And his Spider-Man would be bi and have a boyfriend. Oh gosh. I don't know that this is something we all want to see. We might want to see it because it's so bad. But watching Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland all in a movie, and I don't even know what to say. That's not one of my dreams. Especially if Andrew Garfield's hitting on one of them. That's not something I'm really excited to go see, but apparently there's a strong push for it, so we'll see what happens with that. Our next woke moment comes from the UK, in which a mother was arrested in front of her children and locked up for 7 hours after referring to a transgender woman as a man online. What is this coming to? You can't even get online and just rant and say what you want anymore. Now you've got to get arrested for everything you say online. Well, say goodbye to everybody on the internet, because we're all going to be in jail tomorrow if that's the case. The amount of crap people say, woman calling another person a man when they're saying they're a woman, is the least of your problems when it comes to the internet. Come on. Let's get our priorities straight here on what we're arresting people for. Our next woke moment is very interesting. Comes from a woman who claims that the only way to solve climate change is to let the human race go extinct. So, first off, first things first, I got to show you a photo of her because that just sets up the story, right? I mean, here, look. Just behold her in all her glory. That is some fancy attire. She looks like she came out of an episode of Supernatural or something. So anyway, she has proposed a radical new way to solve climate change, letting humanity become extinct. The book argues that due to the damage done to the other living creatures on Earth, we should start gradually phasing out reproduction. But rather than offering a bleak outlook at the future of humanity, it has generated discussion due to its joyful and optimistic tone as it sets out a positive view for the future of Earth without mankind. It also touches on several hot-button topics from religion and veganism to the concept of identity politics, tying these into how creation of a hierarchical world among humans has left us blind to destruction we are causing to our habitat and other forms of life. All right. So, yeah, this woman wants to get rid of people to make the Earth a better place that we're not going to be able to care about because we won't even be around. So, anyway, and that is not her only good idea, believe it or not. Yes, she has solved climate change with a bold solution of letting the human race die out. Turns out, she's also solved almost every other issue we can think of on the planet. She solved the issue of murder. If every human's gone, it's gonna kill anybody. She solved the issue of theft. If nobody's on Earth, we let the human race die out, no more theft. She even solved the issue of crappy TV shows. No one's gonna make crappy TV shows if there's no humans left to make them. It's great. It's a one covers all solution. We just let the humans die out. We're good to go. Can I just say, the idea of slowly phasing out reproduction, we've seen that somewhere before. It's on a show called The Handmaid's Tale, and that does not end pretty. That is not good. So, not to say that's how it would turn out, but looking at what goes on there, that might not seem like the best idea. It might not be the best option to pursue. I mean, there's many other reasons, no humans and all, but just saying that's a little bit familiar, phasing out the reproduction. Maybe not our best choice. All right, moving on to our next best woke moment of the week. We have a 34-year-old man assaulting a 15-year-old boy who was a Trump supporter, and this man was not too happy with him. Take a look at a picture of this guy. I mean, look at this. He looks like Andy Kaufman going bald on top and just completely miserable and unhappy. And he just looks like he wants to slap a 15-year-old. This guy looks rough. So anyway, let's get down to what happened. So, a New Hampshire man is arrested Thursday afternoon after allegedly assaulting a 15-year-old Trump supporter and two adults at a polling site during the state's first-in-the-nation primary earlier this week. This is where it gets good. So, here's a quote from one of the parents. "My son was standing outside on the sidewalk, and he said, 'Have a nice night.' And he said it to everyone. But this man was triggered." Campbell explained. He said, "F you," to him, and wound up his hand as fast as he could and slapped him across the face. Campbell said that a man also wearing a MAGA hat came over to intervene, according to Campbell, and that man now has a fractured jaw. So, not only does a 34-year-old man assault a 15-year-old boy for saying "have a nice night," he slaps him across the face. Now, there's lots of moves you can use to hurt someone that you're angry at, and a full-grown 34-year-old man slapping somebody across the face is just not the first one that would come to my mind. Maybe it was the only one he was trained in, I don't know, but looking at him, that may be the case. He might not have known what else to do. And last but not least, let's finish off this segment with a video. And we're going to call this one Too Many White People.
Public service announcement. Excuse me. If y'all didn't know, this is the MSC, and frankly, there's just too many white people in here, and this is a space for people of color. So just be really cognizant of the space that you're taking up, because it does make some of us POCs uncomfortable when we see too many white people in here. It's only been open for 4 days, and frankly, there's the whole university for a lot of y'all to be at, and there's very few spaces for us. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
That's some news to me. Apparently, there is an amount of white people that is too much, and apparently is scary. So, that is all of the contenders for Best Woke Moment of the Week. I thank you guys for sticking around and watching, and don't forget to make sure you click up at the top and vote for which one you think was the best of the woke moments. And I know it's going to be hard. So many good ones, right? And make sure you guys, vote on which ones you liked. Be sure to tune in next week, and I'll show you which one won, and we'll go through all this again and cringe at how many just awfully woke moments happen every week. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to leave a like, a comment, subscribe to the channel so you know when these videos go up. If you click the little notification bell, you'll see exactly next time I upload next Monday on the next Woke Moments of the Week video. Thank you guys. We'll see you next time.